will Payday 3 actually release in 2023? That's the question on a lot of Payday players' minds right now, and if the results of polls created recently by both myself and my friend the Noli prove anything, it's that you guys really don't know either, because on both of our polls, nearly 50% of people think the game might be delayed past 2023. And based on the very little information we've had from Overkill in the last 12 months, I can't really blame you. Overkill Software gave us a few key bits of information in 2021, but this year have been far quieter, with very little to share as to the future of the upcoming heisting game. So in today's video, I'm going to dive in deep as to whether or not I think Payday 3 will actually release in 2023, basing off first a development standpoint, then a marketing standpoint, and then, thanks to some help also from the Noli, a financial standpoint, because he was able to explain a few things that I didn't really get from some financial reports, something that he will dive into more in a video he's also releasing within the next week, so make sure you check out his channel if you haven't already. Both of us decided to get together and make our own videos to explore our own perspectives as to whether or not we think Payday 3 will release in 2023, so feel free to watch this video and watch his and see just how much we agree, because we haven't told each other our full plans for the videos, because we're going to both watch each other's videos and see what we think, and we also want to know what all of you think. So down in the comment section below, please do let me know both before and after this video is finished, so that you can let me know if your opinions change based on watching this, as to whether you think Payday 3 will release in 2023, and if you do think it will, when do you think it will? And if you don't, please do let me know why. But either way, my name is Live, welcome back to the channel, and today, let's dive deep into whether Payday 3 will be releasing in the next 12 months. Roll the intro. So like I said when I opened this video, I have 3 key points to explore with Payday 3's upcoming release. The timeline perspective when it comes to development, the marketing perspective, and the financial perspective. So let's start with development. Possibly the most important thing to bear in mind here is how long Payday 3 has actually been in development for. Now that does not mean how long we've known about it, because Payday 3 was first announced back in August of 2016 to coincide with Payday 2's 3rd birthday and its 100th game update. Game development itself didn't actually begin until October 2019, and so if we assume that development started on Halloween, that being it started as recently as possible based on it starting in that month, that means development began 1,118 days ago as of the release date of today's video, November 23rd, 2022. So let's put that into a bit of perspective, shall we? I'm going to compare it first to Payday 2 and then to a non-Payday game that I think we can make fair assumptions and connections to. So Payday the Heist was first released on October 18th, 2011, and then Payday 2 was released on the 13th of August 2013. That's only 22 months in between the first 2 games of this franchise releasing. It's also important to remember that Payday 2 development probably didn't start until after Payday the Heist had released. They probably had time to build on that game, release the Wolfpack DLC. Maybe by that point Payday 2 had started being constructed, but we don't know for sure. Regardless, less than 2 years were taken to build Payday 2 up. Now obviously there is an argument to be made about the amount of content present in Payday 2 at launch. As a lot of us know who played it back then, there wasn't a great deal. There were a few heists and a good framework, but not enough to keep people playing for a very long time. I myself know that when I got it on Xbox 360, I didn't find myself playing for much longer than a few weeks because there wasn't tons to do. It was only when the Crime Wave edition came out on Xbox One that there was more than enough content to keep me hooked for months on end. But in terms of actual days, that's 665 days between Payday the Heist and Payday 2's launches. Again, remember that Payday 3 has been in development for at least 1,118 days. And with Payday 3 definitely not releasing until 2023 at the earliest, that means there will be at least double the development time on Payday 3 compared to Payday 2, roughly time-wise speaking at this point. Which means if that time converts accurately, that means Payday 3 should be roughly double the size of Payday 2 right now in terms of its development. Again, that's a prediction, doesn't necessarily mean it's that. There could be other development issues that have happened with Payday 3 that means they're further back than you would assume, but there's been a lot of time so far. So we're getting to that point where Payday 3 should have a decent framework by now. But again, as I said, let's compare it to a different game that I think would handle very similarly, and since Payday 2 was so heavily influenced by the Left 4 Dead game series, I wanted to look at Back 4 Blood specifically. This was a game that was developed from the creators of Left 4 Dead that wasn't part of that franchise, but tried to spiritually succeed it. Back 4 Blood was first announced on March 14th, 2019, and then released on October 12th, 2021. That's a time jump of 943 days. Now granted, development probably started before the original announcement, but it also might not have done because gamers didn't actually know specifically the game was coming until the official reveal trailer that aired during the Game Awards on December 10th, 2020, some 18 months after the official announcement from Warner Brothers. So it could be development actually did start around March 2019 when it was first actually announced. which means development maybe took roughly 1,000 days to make. Again, Payday 3 has had 1,118. Both are 4-player co-op shooters, both are not open world, so you can say there's some logic leaps you can make there as to development times. Granted, not the same, they are different games, I know that, but based on their structure and how similarly they might play, you could make some kind of connections there. But all of that to say, from a development standpoint, Payday 3 has got to be getting close to having a playable build by now. And remember that that isn't the first step. If you note, recently Dragon Age Dreadwolf, if you're a fan of that franchise, recently announced that they've gone alpha. That means the framework of the game is built and you can play it, but now it's all about the detail, the testing, the analysis, finding what works, finding what doesn't, and making the game as perfect as possible. I reckon, personally, based on development timelines, that Payday 3 is probably roughly at that point now. Maybe not cleared alpha, but if it's not, it can't be far off at this point. I think Payday 3 has had enough time where, compared to Payday 2, and also compared to a more recent game in Back 4 Blood, there's enough of a framework there that we should have a pretty decent game cooking by this point. As such, maybe 2023 doesn't seem as unviable after all. But as I said, development is only one point. Let's now talk about the marketing, and mainly trailer dates. Because the main way that marketing kicks off for a lot of video games is by releasing trailers. They're things that get shared around, talked about, and build excitement in the gaming community. We've had some Twitter reports from Payday 2's Twitter regarding Unreal Engine and some platform news over the last couple of years, but most of the news that I've reported on personally and shared with all of you has to be sought out via looking at these investor earning reports. These aren't things that Overkill announce and say, hey, there's new investor news here, go and check it out. You have to look this up yourself if you are paying attention the way that myself and other Payday YouTubers might do. The most we've had in the way of official news over the last year or two were 3 key events in 2021. First off, the announcement on 19th of March 2021 that Koch Media, now Plaion, were going to be co-publishing the game. The second of these big events took place during Summer Games Fest 2021, where on June 10th, Prime Matter, the publishing studio that was a subsidiary of Koch Media, again now Plaion, was announced, and in their trailer, there was a screenshot for Payday 3 showing Dallas, Chains, Hoxton and Wolf on the roof of a building. This was actually the only new piece of information that Overkill were going to showcase us the day after in their own special Payday 3 segment, and since then there have been discussions as to whether or not that screenshot should have been showed in Prime Matter's trailer. In fact, it's not illogical to assume that Prime Matter may have wanted to put that in there when Overkill didn't, just to show something was happening with Payday 3. Maybe Overkill didn't want to show anything and Prime Matter forced their hand. We don't know. But it would explain why the screenshot that was going to be Overkill's only new bit of information was released a day early outside of Overkill's announcement. Regardless though, the third and biggest of the events in 2021 took place during Payday's 10th anniversary livestream on October 22nd, 2021, where Starbreeze's global brand director Alamir Listo had a chat with game director for Payday 3 Eric Wanavie, revealing new character arts for Dallas, Chains, Hoxton and Wolf, and talking about the game and its setting in far more detail, including revealing that it was set in the present day in New York and was going to emphasis on more things like the digital age and how that has impacted the world of heisting. That's all we've had in the way of news for Payday 3. We have not had a trailer at any point since 2016 when the game was announced, and we didn't get one at any of those 3 key events in 2021. And while I have constantly said on the record that Overkill should have done a trailer by this point to try and build up hype for Payday 3, if you do some research into Overkill's background, you'll see they don't historically do these multi-year hype builds where they release trailers years ahead of time. The best example of which is Payday 2. Their debut trailer aired on March 12th, 2013, which was only 154 days, roughly 5 months, before Payday 2's launch. Put that into perspective, 154 days from now would be the 26th of April 2023. So if they did have the exact number of days between releasing the first trailer and the game's release, Payday 3 is not going to release any earlier than 26th of April, and that's assuming we got a trailer today, which to be fair, we're not going to get unless it comes out of nowhere. But the main point I'm trying to get at here is that Overkill may repeat their pattern from Payday 2 and only really start pushing trailers in the last 6 months before the game's release. If that's the case, there's still plenty of time to market it and release the game in 2023. I should, however, address the outlier in the situation, which is Overkill's The Walking Dead. That did try to push a little bit more of the hype, with the first trailer being revealed on 13th of August 2014 and the game not releasing till November 6, 2018, well over 4 years in between. I get that that breaks my pattern, and also the first proper trailer that gave you a character trailer was the Aiden trailer. That came out on November 6, 2018, 328 days before the game's launch, so that was more of a year in between. However, I would personally be more inclined to trust Payday 2's marketing as opposed to Overkill's The Walking Dead. Main reason being, Payday games hopefully would be marketed in similar ways, it would make sense, and second off, look how Overkill's The Walking Dead did. Do I need to go into more detail there? It didn't do well. Maybe they're not going to want to repeat that pattern of hyping something up that didn't end up delivering. But to play devil's advocate, if we did have a similar strategy to Overkill's The Walking Dead, then 328 days from now would be October 17th, 2023. So if we got a trailer of Payday 3 today, it could release as late as October 2023. That gives us a window of between April and October for the release if past Overkill marketing on Payday 2 and Overkill's The Walking Dead is to be compared. But the point of me saying all of this is basically to conclude that the fact that we haven't had a trailer yet is not a bad thing, despite what you might believe, and despite what I personally believed for a long time before I actually looked into these dates specifically. We might not get a trailer until 2023 begins, and that might be okay. So we may end up closing this year out without seeing something, and if we don't, fair enough, the game could still well release in 2023. Finally, I'd like to look briefly at the financial perspective, and I say briefly because I don't understand the financial stuff nearly as well as some other people do. And again, I have to give credit to the Noah for talking me through this. We actually went on call on Discord for about 2 hours, and he broke all this stuff down to me and explained it because I only understood it on a very basic level. And I'm not going to go into tons of detail because I'll only be reciting what he said, and he's no doubt going to explain it better than I ever could. But for the sake of this video and the conclusions that I want to make, I'm going to talk about a little bit of what he said. And one thing that he noticed that I didn't spot specifically was that Starbreeze have roughly been taking losses year on year since roughly Q1, Q2 of 2016. So for the last 6-ish years, Starbreeze has been making losses as a company. Now that's not unusual for big companies. For example, Amazon has been doing that on and off for years. In fact, often you end up being in a loss in order to do better in the long run because you're spending a lot of money hoping to get better returns so that eventually you'll end up turning a bigger profit because you spent more early on. But despite Starbreeze still making losses, the thing to note is that they are doing better now than they have in a long time. Now to pull out some brief financial information, I'm going to put this following table on screen here. This shows the Swedish krona earnings in Q3 2022, that being the period between July and November of this year, and it's compared to different other periods. Q3 of 2021, R12M means the last rolling 12-month period, so the last 12 months going back from today, and also the year of 2021. I'm going to look at the second row, which is EBITDA, that's earnings, and that basically refers to general earnings of everything Starbreeze owns as a company, mainly of course being the Payday IP and Payday 2. If you look at the rolling 12-month period earnings, that's 40,076, and that means roughly 40 million Swedish krona earnings in the last 12 months. Compare that to the 2021 period, so rolling 12 months, that means from September of 2021 to September of 2022 to January to December of 2021, you can see how much the earnings have improved from roughly 6.2 million Swedish krona to 40 million Swedish krona. They're making a lot more money, and that is reflected in their profits. You can see they're making a loss of 44 million in the rolling 12-month period, but that's a lot less than the 105 million krona loss in the period of 2021. So even if you don't understand these financial earnings on a very deep level, I don't, you can quite clearly see their financial situation is improving, and it's improving fairly well. There's another graph I can show briefly on screen here to show the revenue development growth in the Payday franchise. You can see a steady rough increase over the last couple of years to show that Payday is making them more money. And all I want to do in showing you these graphs and these tables and these bits of information is make the statement that Starbreeze as a company, despite the problems they've had over the last half a decade and the reconstruction they came out of several years ago, they're getting better, they're getting bigger, and if it were me, I would argue that they're getting into a place where they are much better equipped to release a game in, I don't know, the next 12 months. As such, I think that in terms of their finances, they are putting a lot of their money right now riding on Payday 3. They are hoping Payday 3 is their big game, and as I've said before, if Payday 3 was to fail, I genuinely think Starbreeze would as well. They would just collapse. Payday 3 is their last resort. So they have been putting all this money in to try and make Payday 3 the biggest and best game it can be, which again would make sense as to why they're still in losses, because they're putting all this money into their big asset Payday 3 in the hopes that when it releases, it turns one heck of a profit for them. And so to make my conclusion on the financial standpoint, I would say that because Overkill's finances are getting better, it points to a game possibly releasing to complement those improved finances in the next 12 months. So let's bring everything together and conclude my thoughts, and you can probably guess where I'm going from this based on what I've said in the last 3 chapters. All signs do seem to suggest that Payday 3 could very well still release in 2023. First off, we've had over 3 years spent developing Payday 3, far more than we've had for Payday 2, and it's not finished yet because obviously the game isn't even out yet. We also know that Overkill aren't out of character so far and not releasing a trailer for Payday 3. They could do that early next year and it would still release that year, and on top of that, they're in a pretty decent financial steading, or at least in context, one of the best steadings they've been in for quite a long time. So despite nearly half of Payday viewers right now on both myself and Noli's channels thinking the game might well get delayed into 2024 or later, I'm not so sure it will. My own personal opinion is that Payday 3 will still release in 2023, but following all these patterns, looking at all the marketing I've seen, my best guess is that it will release in the second half of 2023. I think it's fair to assume Overkill will maximize the amount of time they can get so that it still releases in the year they're promising without having to do any delays. A lot of games get delayed these days, and hopefully Overkill are trying to avoid that. And one point that I made before that I have no evidence for, so take this with a grain of salt, is that what if this co-publishing agreement between Starbreeze Studios and Koch Media, or now Plaion, states the game has to release in 2023? We haven't seen that contract. We don't know what that agreement means. It could well be that the game has to release in 2023 regardless because Plaion wants it to release then. We don't know. It would back up why Prime Matter showed off Overkill screenshot a day early at Summer Games Fest, possibly having to force their hand a tiny bit. We don't know. Hopefully that isn't true though, because if that is true, that means Overkill are forced to stick to a timeline that possibly they couldn't commit to. Again, this is all going into theories that we just have no evidence for, so please take this with a grain of salt, but it could be another factor that means the game releases in 2023. But from everything I've said in this video, I genuinely believe there's solid evidence to just back it releasing next year without this even coming into the equation, if it even is true, which again, we don't know. It's just a theory from me personally that I've just thought of in recent times. But if you want me to conclude and give my own accurate release date predictions, I would like to think that they might try and release the game on an anniversary. It's something I've thought in my head for a long time, but that then gives us two possible release windows. Somewhere around August 13th, 2023, to mark the 10-year anniversary of Payday 2. That'd be really nice, not gonna lie. The second one would be roughly October 2023, and that would mark the 12-year anniversary of Payday as a franchise. The only reason I'm leaning more towards the August one is not only so it was referenced Payday 2, the big game that made the franchise as popular as it is, but also look at the Texas Heat campaign. If we look at the release dates for the third leg of it right now, the Hostile Takeover bundle, the final DLC releases in late February. That means if they do 4 more DLCs, they could release in March, April, May, and June of 2023, even later if need be, which would then wrap up the Texas Heat campaign a month or two before Payday 2's 10th anniversary. That gives you enough time to get final hype building, maybe windows for a beta, and then full release for Payday 3 in August 2023. We always have 4 chapters for these Payday 2 campaigns. We're in the third one now and it ends in February. These legs of each campaign are only roughly 3 to 4 months long, so it makes sense that they should be wrapped up by approximately June of 2023. So for me personally, all signs point to 2023 release, and unless Overkill wants to leave us with roughly half a year without content, I'd wager mid-2023, mid to late, roughly August, so approximately Q3 2023 release. That is my best guess, based on everything that I've concluded from my research and putting together this video. So those are my thoughts on whether or not Payday 3 will release in 2023, and I think all roads point to August of 2023. But what do you guys think? Do you think I've got some good evidence here to back me up? Do you think I'm talking out my backside? Please let me know for or against my opinions down in the comment section below. I'd be very interested to know what you all think as to whether or not Payday 3 will actually release in 2023. But thank you all very much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. It would show me you like this kind of content and would like to see more. And if you happen to want to see more videos from me regarding Payday 2 or Payday 3 for all platforms on PC and consoles, drop a subscribe because it's quick, it's free, and I'll always love you for doing so. Thank you once again to my friend the Noli for helping me with the financial side of this and for also just coordinating this cool little thing with us where we've both got our videos coming out back to back. I think it'll be an interesting thing for both of our communities, even though there is no doubt a big overlap between them, just to see our different perspectives and see how they compare. I'm very interested to see what he's got to say, as I'm hoping he's interested to see what I've got to say. So either way, thank you all very much for watching. I will see you all very soon with a brand new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I will see you all very soon.